What we're finding in the world today is that new technologies and the convergence of mobile telephony with the internet and the cloud-based services is allowing new entrants into many traditional markets. In the old world, you needed to innovate your products, expand geographically. Now you have a new set of competitors who do not have your legacy products, they do not have your legacy systems, they are able to enter a market and disrupt it. This is therefore creating pressure in many value chains, and we'll see profound industry change in many of the more manufacturing areas like automotive and as we've seen in IT. So what we would expect over time is that as disruption becomes more commonplace, we will have to see many companies act defensively simply to retain their market shares. If you think about the arrival of Tesla in the car manufacturing area, what Fiat and Daimler need to remember is that their cars have 2,000 moving parts, and they are genuinely works of art from an engineering perspective. A Tesla has 20 moving parts. So the manufacturing skill required to compete is now at a significantly different level. Disruption will also mean one other strategic challenge for our investors, and that is the arrival of the new consumer. Everyone born after 1985 is called a millennial, and millennials are doing things differently from their parents, the baby boomers. Millennials have a phone, they shop online, they have it delivered online, and that is a global phenomenon, not just a US and a European phenomenon. So companies, again, have another challenge. Not only do they have the disruptive technologies of IT and the mobile phone, they now have a new consumer. And that new consumer has no loyalty, they have no brand transparency because the price of their goods is on their phone. It's not in a shop. And so you're going to need many different business models and different ways to approach disruption because you have each industry will be buffeted by these different pressures depending on where their growth and their products are marketed. So basically, if we take an example like new retail, in the old days, when a successful retailer in Europe wished to expand into China or into the United States, they had to buy stores, they had to rent property and logistic chains. Now, all they need is a functioning internet site, and the rest is all logistics. And so what I think we will see, and investments in Italy like Posta Italiana could be very interesting beneficiaries, because what we will see is the arrival of Zara on the internet, the arrival of Amazon will need a facilitator. The product the client will buy on their phone, and then they will have it delivered to their office or their home. You won't need as many retail shops, you won't need as many malls in the new era of shopping. And ultimately what we will see is the largest markets are now becoming the home delivery food markets. So it's not only restaurants who will want to access their clients using their mobile phone, but it will also be that you will shop and have it delivered home. And so these type of services are going to change the dynamic and the culture of how we do things in Europe and around the rest of the world. And of course, what is exciting for many international companies is that emerging markets are moving straight from no technology to a mobile technology that enables this to start with. So if you think about countries like China and Vietnam and Indonesia, they don't have fixed line networks. So unlike TI, which is trying here, Telecom Italia, which here in Italy is trying to make us all pay to stay on their networks, they just have a mobile phone, they bank on their phone, they insure on their phone, and they shop on their phone, and everything gets delivered to their home. So we will look at a very different way of the world operating, both in developed markets, where the disruption is going to be truly interesting to invest through, and in the emerging markets, where they're going from having no markets to being fully developed IT markets. Well, I think that the first thing I would say about the approach Allianz Global Investors has taken to investing is that the first thing is we're defensive. Disruption will clearly have more losers than winners. So with all our research resources, we're trying to make sure when we engage with management that they understand the pressures that are coming in their industry. But what we have then done is we have built a disruption filter which allows us to look with our equity analysts at where the disruption is starting to emerge and how we can see which companies are better placed to defend that disruption and which ones are more vulnerable to it. I think one of the early investment conclusions of disruption is that many companies that are quite cheap and look very undervalued may in fact never see that reversion to the mean in their recovery because disruption is going to take away their business. So that's why I called our strategy initially defensive, because finding the winners, the next Uber or the next Airbnb, may not be something we are able to invest in, but we can, for our clients and their investments, avoid the losers, and therefore deliver returns by anticipating how industries will unfold and how they will converge as IT allows consumers to then change their preferences and their choices.